positives. Something good. What's something good that's happened? You had a good night's sleep.
That we get out some days, like we have
So not this week,
Yeah.
but next week we don't have school on Friday, and then we have Saturday, Sunday, and then we don't have school on Monday. So we have this week's a 5-day week, then we have a 4-day week and a 4-day week, and Valentine's Day is in that the following week. So that'll be fun. Yes, Mason. Positive.
I played my game last night.
You played your game. What game did you play? Fortnite. Okay, Miss Soden.
I'm just happy to be here.
You're just happy to be here. Now I'm going to say Dr. Hart got a really good night's sleep last night. I slept really, really well, and some nights I don't. So that's a positive. I also watched this really interesting thing on TV about people who live not in the city part of Alaska, but way out in Alaska and still do all the traditional things, and it was negative 70. So 70 degrees below zero. And 3 little girls all bundled up. Dad took them out ice fishing because they had to have fish because they were out of fish, and fish is part of their diet. And they were happy and giggling, so that made me be very positive about having like a nice warm house and all of those things to go to and my food provided. Okay, so today, let's talk about what this lesson looks like. Our learning targets. We are going to refer to a text and explaining what it says. So we are talking about a disease called polio, and we'll talk about that and how it kind of relates a little bit to COVID. I can describe chronologically of a personal narrative. That means in order, first, second, third, and I can use transition words. So we're going to talk about some of these transition words. Again, we do see on here, next, last, those first, those second, those third. I didn't put so much on those because those are ones you already know. Okay, so this is part of where we're going to get to. Our goal for this lesson is that when you write another personal narrative, we're using some of these transition words. We will use the paper from the other lesson, but not right away. Okay, first we're going to learn about this. And what this is the rest of the book. The rest of the book talks about this disease called polio. Okay? And we're going to do an introduction today, and then we're going to start talking about a young boy who has polio and make a whole big timeline. And then you guys will also make a timeline of something in your life and then be able to write about that. Okay? So switching gears just a little bit. I am going to hand everybody a glossary because everybody needed their own for my next skill. And I am going to go ahead and grab a marker. I will do this at the table. Okay, so first, before we start, we have some vocabulary words we need to go over, okay? Their first vocabulary word I want you to find in the glossary is virus. Virus. How would I find virus in my glossary? Go to the V, yeah? Good job, go to the V. Each one of you, a highlighter. I'm going to have you highlight these words. You can choose which highlighter you would like. Mason, can you grab me a highlighter, please? Okay. You found the word virus. Can you highlight it on your paper for me? Virus. Who can tell me what a virus is? Shay.
A virus is a disease that you and it makes you sick.
It does. What does our definition say? It says it's a tiny creature that infects a living organism with the disease, right? So we're used to the name virus, like I have a virus, like a cold. But the virus part is actually this little thing that gets into our body that infects us, right? That's why we say things like we need to use a wipe. And when we use wipes, it does say like it kills what? Viruses, right? So it kills those little things that can get into our body to infect us. Okay? Doctor's going to make a big chart. We just don't have room on our table for a big chart of these words. That's why I want you to highlight them so you know what they are. Okay, our next word. Our next word. Ooh, this is a big one. Close your glossary. Let me see who can find this word. You didn't know what that word is?
Contagious.
Ooh, nice sounding out. Give me 5. Contagious. Sophie, what does contagious mean?
Say that you're sick or something and the sickness is contagious.
Yep, you did the wrong word, that's why. So what does it say? Capable of being passed from one person to another, right? So this is our virus. This is what's going to cause the sickness, right? Somebody has it and they become what? Contagious. That means that it's going to pass to each other. That's why we say wash our hands, use a tissue, all of those things to go through that. So now we have the virus. We know it's contagious. Let's look at this word. Ready? What's that word? Vaccine. What is a vaccine?
Medicine. It's a shot.
A shot? Medicine? What does it say?
In medicine given to prevent catching a disease.
Medicine given to prevent catching a disease. Okay. So could it be a shot? Yeah. Could it be a different form of medicine? Yeah. So we have our virus. It's contagious. How do we kind of take care of it? We might have to get a vaccine. So like when you were little, like my grandson, baby Jackson, he has to go to the doctors and get shots. Those are vaccines against diseases like the one we're going to learn about called polio. Yes, Shay.
Hannah has to go get a one today.
So what they do nowadays, like when my girls was little, you had to get 1 shot for this, 1 shot for that, 1 shot for this, 1 shot for that, to help prevent all those diseases like chicken pox and everything like that. But guess what? Nowadays they have it all in 1 shot. Or some of you might have gotten a COVID shot, right? Did anyone here get when COVID was out, get the COVID vaccine? Well, some people did, and that's to help prevent what? COVID. If you didn't, it is okay. The next few words we're going to look at are words that are a symptom of a disease. So something that can happen when you have the disease. When this disease polio happened, this is what happened to some people. What's that word? Let's look at the word first. I know you all want to find it. What's this word? What is it? We got the first part. Crippled. Crippled. This is my LD. There is an E at the end of this word. Crippled. Crippled. It's not in your... Oh, well, they didn't put it in the glossary. What does it mean to be crippled? That's not it. Don't just highlight a word. What does it mean to be crippled? Does anyone know? Okay.
It means you can't move.
It means you can't move or walk. A lot of times when we talk about people being crippled, we say they can't walk, but sometimes it's more than that, okay? For some reason, is it up here? Yep, it's on the next page. You all needed to turn the page. Crippled. Crippled. So we gotta think of where our CR is, right? Good job. Okay. The next word, somebody might walk with a, what's my word?
Limp.
Limp. What do you think a limp is? Keep going.
Limp is
Limp.
like
What
they
letter
walk
does limp start with? So,
They they walk like really, really, really.
Okay, but what does that mean?
That means like they can't walk. You can walk.
They can walk, but it's not firm. So let's all stand up. Stand up, stand up, stand up. So sometimes even when my dad does this, he walks with a limp. Show me how you walk with a limp. Kind of like this. Maybe sometimes if you have a pulled muscle in your leg, you might walk with a limp. Good. Okay. Sit back down. Good job. Okay. Good. So let's look at our alphabet. Where does L come? After what letter? K. Okay. Now what word are we looking for? Limp. Okay. Something else that might happen is somebody might have a spasm. This word's kind of interesting. Let's take a look at this word. I don't want you to find it. I want you to look at this word. Spasm. What's a spasm, Sophie?
Like a muscle. What?
Like a muscle. What does that muscle do?
Contraction.
Yeah, like your muscle contracts and it might make you act a different way, right? So yeah, but a spasm's not just a muscle contraction. Like on Sunday, the muscle in my thigh contracted and it hurt, but then it uncontracted. A spasm is like your muscles contract like. Everyone try that. Feel your muscles contract. Really violently. That's what it means. They really contract. You can tell when someone's having a spasm. Okay? Sometimes when Dr. Hart's back goes out, it shoots spasms up my back. And it's very painful. And then I don't come to school because I can't walk. Okay. Now, this word. Sometimes, this is another word. Let's look at this word. Before we find it, let's look at our word. What is this word? Woozy. What does it mean to be woozy?
Like you're really, really dizzy.
Really dizzy. Yep, and really tired. Does that go with the definition? Dizzy, weak. Yep. Yep. But when you're woozy, you're weak, but you also get the dizziness. So it's not just being weak, right? You also get the dizziness. Good job. Let's look at some words that are going to help us. This first word we need to know. So we have a virus, we are contagious, we're doing the vaccine, and then we're still not feeling well, so what do we need? We go to the doctor and get a what? Diagnosis. Ooh, good job sounding these words out. Diagnosis. What's a diagnosis?
It's
Shay.
where you like have to go to the doctor and see if like how sick you are.
Yeah. And what does the doctor tell you?
They specify.
They specify exactly what it is, what you have, okay? So maybe you have COVID, maybe you have a cold, maybe you have the flu. We don't know. Okay, so we've done virus, we've done contagious, we've done vaccine, we've done crippled. That one's pretty similar. Okay, so when my friends have a diagnosis of polio, they had to close your glossaries, something called this. What is this?
Spinal tap.
This is an A.
Tap.
A spinal tap. Has anyone ever had a spinal tap?
What is that?
Find it in your glossary and find out what it is. Remember, I might have to go to the next page. It's what? S. What's my second letter? P, right? What?
A medical test taking fluid from around.
It's around usually your what?
Your spine.
Your spine. Okay, so where's your spine?
In the middle. In the middle
Right.
of your back.
It's also called your backbone, right? So when they do a spinal tap, they have to take fluid from your spine.
There's fluid right there.
Well, okay, you can feel your spine, right?
Mhm.
What is our spine connected to? Different bones and vertebrae, right? And there's muscles in our back, right? So there's fluid throughout our whole body, right? Like blood and things like that. So what they do is they literally take a needle and yeah, it's very painful, and put it in, and they take out some of
Wait,
your spinal
Do
fluid.
you
And
have
they
to do
test-
that?
Well, for some diseases, right? For some viruses, for some things that are contagious, for some things that you have a diagnosis for, right? You will need a spinal tap. Now, I'm going to tell you, today, for the most part, people do not get the disease we're talking about called polio. But people do get spinal taps for other things, like children who have leukemia and cancer and things like that. Yes, Sophie?
Before I go to middle school, I have to go get my flu shot and more other shots.
So you are getting what?
Um,
Vaccines, right?
I don't
You're
like
getting,
shots.
you're
I
getting,
don't-
no,
I
but
hate needles.
yeah, most people don't like shots, but the good thing is, after you go to middle school and get them, you really don't need any more unless you decide to get them when you are an adult.
I've heard people that have got the COVID shot still got COVID.
Oh, and then I have to get like a shot like on my finger to see if I have like
They're gonna-
diabetes or not.
They're gonna
Yeah.
prick your finger.
Yeah, that's not.
I-
Okay, I have two more words I want us to look at. We've learned about it being contagious. When someone's being, hold on, wait till I write the word. I knew I was gonna do that. It's an A, not an I. This is where the I is. What is this word? You might know the word.
Insect.
Well, what does it start with? C. So what's our C-O-N say? Con. Oh, what's our word mix? Okay, let's look at our word. Look here. What's my first syllable? I divide between what? Two consonants that are not alike. So what does C-O-N say?
Corn.
Con. What does T-A-M say? Tam. My it is short because it starts contaminate. Not contaminated. Do I have a D here to make it in the past? No, contaminate. What does it mean to contaminate
Infect.
something? To infect it, right? So it's still like if you are contagious, you could contaminate someone, right? You could infect them with what you have. Okay, let's just talk about this next thing. I'm not going to write it out because it's just a part of what you're going to hear in the story we read. Does anybody know what a homecoming float is?
No.
Does anyone know what homecoming is?
Oh yes.
What's homecoming?
It's like a prom.
Okay, so usually it happens when you're in high school. Colleges have them. We're not highlighting this one. Colleges have them as well. Look at Dr. Hart. Homecoming is like when all the people who attended the high school in the past come back. So my high school that I went to is celebrating 100 years. Okay, so this year in October they had a big homecoming celebration inviting all the people who attended the school to come back. They usually do tours of the schools, friends get together and do things, and then in the afternoon everyone usually goes to a football game. Okay, then and there's big pep rallies and people cheering and going woo and everything. Then after that, there's usually like a dance at the high school, or people go out to dinner. Alumni usually don't attend the dance, but there's a dance for the students who are in the high school, and everyone gets all dressed up and looks pretty, and people take pictures. But the homecoming, so in some places, like where I went to high school, I don't know about Miss Soden, but where I went to high school, before the football game, they have a big parade, and each class makes a big homecoming float. And what the float is, it's usually pulled like by a truck or a wagon or something, and it's to like encourage your team to do the best they can. Like when I was in high school, every year I worked on the homecoming float because that was the big thing that we did. And guess what? Eyes here. Guess what? Every year My dad had made this blue, or this rocking horse. It was white. We've ended up painting it. It's been all different colors depending on what it was on the homecoming float. It's been black, it's been blue. It's represented different teams that we're playing against. But every year my class decided that we were going to do something with the rocking horse. So this year, when the 100th anniversary of my high school came, my friends called me and said, hey, every class is doing a homecoming float. Does your dad still have the rocking horse? I said, yeah, but I'm not going to be able to come because obviously it was in the middle of October and I'm here. But yeah, they did a huge thing with the rocking horse, so that was kind of cool. But that's what the whole homecoming thing is. So that's something we're going to read about more. And then the one word that we really need to focus on is chronological, putting things in time order. How did they happen? First, second, third, fourth. I want you guys to keep your highlighters. We are going to start with one story called The Introduction to Polio. Okay? And we are going to read pencils, Well, actually today, you guys are gonna get lucky. Put your name on there with a pen, and then all you need right now is your highlighter. Put your name with the pen. Put the pen down. And then what you need is your what? Highlighter. Okay. I'm going to read this to you. As I read this to you, if you turn to your next page, 7.1 with these questions, and you can actually look at mine, you see there's all sorts of questions about what I'm reading, right? And I've helped us, when we get to the questions, I've helped us by writing out some phrases that will help us, that we might have to use some of our transition words with to answer those questions. But as we're reading, I want you to focus on two things that you may highlight. I'm going to do the reading. You're going to highlight what you think you need to highlight. I want you to focus on what is polio, what are the symptoms, what it is, what are the symptoms, okay? Those are the only two things. Okay, tracking fingers or track with your highlighter. Following along, so you're ready to highlight. You might even want to have it open. I'm not going to have mine open because I'm going to be reading. Polio is a serious and contagious illness caused by a virus. Ooh, I like how some friends are highlighted. The polio virus spreads through contact with feces or less commonly being coughed or sneezed on. Most people infected with the virus have no symptoms. For others, it results in flu-like symptoms such as fever, sore throat, nausea, headache, and tiredness. But when the polio virus affects the brain and spinal cord, it is very serious and can cause severe symptoms, including muscle weakness and paralysis. Paralysis is another word for crippled, which may be temporary or permanent. While polio can infect anyone, it mostly affects children. Has anyone, and I see some friends highlighting, good job, has anyone here ever heard of polio?
No.
No. You have? Did you talk about it in class, or where have you heard about polio?
My mom told me about it.
Your mom told you about it. Great. So I'm going to tell you that polio was very common during the Great Depression and World War II, and we're going to find out some of that as we read. And also, today, have you ever had to get a vaccine for polio? When talking about your middle school vaccines, did they say polio? No, but because of a vaccine and some very, very smart doctors, guess what? Polio does not exist for the most part today in the United States, in our whole Western Hemisphere. Okay, so we'll learn about that as well. Let's keep going. Second paragraph, following along. starting with the word stories. Stories and drawings from as early as the year 1500 BCE suggest that people have gotten sick with polio for a long time. So the year 1500 is way before we started with our 1800s and everything like that, right? We are in the year, what year are we in? Somebody tell me.
2024.
So we are in 2024, and they're saying they saw this 1500 in BCE means before Christ. So how we tell time is like after Christ, before Christ. That's kind of how they do it. This is the early time, so it's not even the 1500s as we know it. It's way, way before that. So many, many, many hundreds of thousands of years ago. So let's start. In 1789, a British physician, Michael Underwood, published the first description of polio in a medical literature. In 1840, a German doctor named it infantile paralysis. What does infantile mean? Have you heard of the word infant? What's an infant?
An infant is like a baby.
A baby. So infantile means what? Baby. Paralysis. Remember I said paralysis, Mason? Was like what? Crippled, right? Not being able to walk and move. Okay, let's keep going. Polio epidemics increased in the late 1800s, and polio epidemics occurred regularly in the United States throughout the first half of the 20th century. Because polio is so contagious, these epidemics were very frightening, and communities treated the threat very seriously. Swimming pools closed. Children were not allowed in other public gathering places, such as movie theaters. In the summer, when polio epidemics are most likely to occur, some parents kept their children indoors or made them wear gloves. Can you believe that? Let's stop right there. We're going to continue reading this. Let's go ahead and go to our questions. Turn to our questions, because we've gotten a lot of information, right, for comprehension. We've gotten a lot of information. I'm going to put some of this out here. Do not write yet. Do not write yet. Yeah, you can use their pens today. You're good. But that's why I've asked you not to write yet, right? Because when we write, we want to make sure lots of information today that we have all our words. So can you put your glossary under your paper, or yeah. Okay, so let's take a look. My first question says, what is polio? No, not what it's caused by. What is polio?
A disease.
It is a disease. Polio is a what? A disease. Now wait. It's a disease. What is it caused by? A virus. So I have these two. Now let's see. It says polio is a disease. Polio is caused by a virus. Two separate sentences, right? Transition words means I'm going to connect it, right? With one of these words, it's going to tell me I'm going to make a transition. How can I connect this sentence? What could I connect? What word could I connect it with? Any word on here. What do you think? And. Okay, so I can put my word and, right? Now watch. Let's don't start writing yet. We'll get there. It says polio is a disease and polio is caused by a virus. When I read that, that sounds like a lot of words, right? What could I take out of that? Polio is a disease and is caused by a virus. Do I need to say polio again? No. Okay, so try to print that. Polio is a disease and is caused by a virus. What do my sentences start with? article, what am I ending with? Period, right? Yep, there's only one capital in here, so that's all you should see on your paper. Polio is a disease and is caused by a virus. Keep going. Okay, double check, make sure words are spelled correctly. Make sure you have capital and period. Sophie, if you're doing printing, can you get me a paper towel, please? Here. I just need that much, thank you. We're just gonna get a little bit so we can look at our next sentence and while Mason finishes up. So when we are answering questions in our classroom, I know you guys have a lot of questions to answer for science. We have to make sure that we're answering those questions in a complete sentence. Even if it's asking us a yes/no question, we need to make sure we're doing it in a complete sentence. Okay, you done? Okay, great. Now, what does our next question ask us?
What are the symptoms?
What are the symptoms? Where do I have some symptoms here?
Nausea.
Okay, nausea is a symptom. What else? Tiredness is a symptom. Headache,
Fever.
sore throat, fever, muscle weakness, and what's this other one?
Paralyzed.
Paralysis, which does mean to be paralyzed. Okay, but I have all these words. Is this a sentence?
No.
No. So what does my question ask? What are the symptoms of polio? How can I put that in a sentence?
It begins with
The, okay, we could do the symptoms, No. The symptoms of polio. Am I just writing one symptom or am I writing more than one?
all of them.
All of them, so then we need to use the word are. The symptoms of polio are, or the symptoms of polio begin with. Because remember, it said these were the more common ones, right? These were in severe cases, right? So we could do the symptoms of polio are nausea, tiredness, headache, sore throat, fever, muscle weakness, and what other word do I need here? And paralysis, right? Or I could say the symptoms of polio begin with nausea, tiredness, headache, sore throat, and fever. Then come muscle weakness and paralysis, right? Using our transition words. So we can say, we all have the symptoms of polio on your paper. So what are we starting my sentence with? Capital letter, right? The, you guys can write that much. The, and it is, oh no, we have just a few minutes. The, right, symptoms. Of polio. Now what were we going to be saying? What two words? Begin with, start with, those are all transition because we're transitioning into what we're going to list. Begin or are with, you can do are as well. Now, when I write each one of these words, what do I need to put between them?
Decimal.
What is that called? Let's take a look at what it looks like. Comma, comma, comma. If you're doing this sentence, we're going to use, let me wake that up, the word and, right? So I'm just going to take some of this off of here so we can see a little better. got to put in your comma. So the symptoms of polio begin with nausea, tiredness, headache, sore throat, fever. We're putting in our comma, right? Comma after sore throat. And fever, so you can do it that way. And then the symptoms of polio begin with nausea, tiredness, headache, sore throat, and fever. And then we can put a period and they continue with, right? So another transition word, they continue with muscle weakness and paralysis. Or you can list them all, right? Continue with. And then we have to use that word and. And is used a number of different ways. So it's used as a transition word, as a connecting word. What goes at the end of my sentence? What goes at the end of my sentence? Period. Good job. Okay, make sure you have that one written. Make sure names are spelled correctly. Make sure we have, look where my P's are. Do P's go above the line, below the line? Above the line, below the line, I's are here. Good. If you have it written, you can put this in your folder. We'll continue with this tomorrow. Good job. And Mason, I need you to hang up for just